our head a little bit as to the predictions more so, because we've all gone for Knights, but Xenox Fury have definitely had their fair point of conversation.
Yeah, I certainly have. In fact, I'm actually kind of looking at the old Twitch predictions at the moment, and it's almost 50-50. So there's clearly a lot of Fury fans out there. And look, they did get obviously a pretty close match in Playday 1 against the Direwolves. It went to overtime. It wasn't a 7-5 loss, fortunately for them, but obviously they were not able to go on and get the 2 points. I don't think this is as cut and dry. And yeah, like you said, yes, we all predicted Knights, at least on the broadcast, but it's not the most one-sided affair. I would say the Knights should be bouncing back, obviously, from what was arguably a pretty humiliating defeat against Elevate, you know, a team that the Knights would want to believe that they're on the same level of. But I think this is obviously a new look Fury roster. Playday 2 was great. Sorry, Playday 2. Stage 2 was great. And then obviously what we saw from them in Playday 1 does suggest that Fury is here to contend. And who's to say why they could not get that second place? You go and beat the Knights here, and guess what? They're actually in second place. So it's as cut and dry as that.
And they managed to take a point away from Direwolves, so there's definitely a point to be had here, guys, that Fury could well and truly do something.
A point to be had?
What's wrong with that?
They took a point from Direwolves, so there's a point to be had.
What's wrong with that? Come on, mate.
Mate, you should save that one for a more important moment.
Yeah, mate.
No, he doesn't work majors either, mate. Come on.
Come on. There's no call up.
No. I think, look, the big thing for me for Fury heading into this stage was they didn't have the roster changes that a lot of other teams did. So in the long run, they should be reaping the benefits of that. And we already saw it in Stage 2, where it was a pretty huge improvement. Stage 1 feels like a lifetime ago now. It was a disaster, but they've been able to improve dramatically. Getting a point, at least against Direwolves, is somewhat impressive, and it keeps them in the discussion, at least for a run, at least towards the top 4, and even potentially on the heels of the top 2. A win here for Fury would be absolutely huge, and would well and truly keep them in that discussion.
And I guess on the flip side as well, a win for Knights is nothing short of exactly what they need, Xenox. This is not the greatest start we've seen to a stage, but obviously, you know, we want to temper expectations by saying Elevate. We're kind of on another level versus the Knights. Yep. So, I mean, how much do you really take away from that matchup? How much do you bring kind of like the grudge of their own performance into this?
Yeah, and look, I wouldn't take a whole lot if I was the Knights, in the sense, obviously they'd be very disappointed with the way that it transpired. Anytime you lose 7-1, 7-0, I mean, even 7-2, there's a lot that hasn't quite gone your way. We got to cast that game, me and Guz, and watching that up close, you could actually see them tinkering with things on the fly. Like, they were actively trying different strategies, different ways that they could sort of break down, elevate. It just, nothing was working. And this was also on Bank, so that first half, Elevate got a 6-0 attack on Bank. Absolutely destroyed the Knights. They just picked them apart. It was systematic, is the way that I think I phrased it last week. So,
What?
Yo, Speakeasy's built diff. I don't know if you saw that. But
I didn't.
That's what you were laughing at, right, Rob?
Yeah, that's 100% what I was
That wasn't you,
laughing at.
Jake. Your analysis was
I was
really
going to
good.
say, I know I'm the content, but still. Obviously, the Knights won't look too much into that result. They'll back themselves in to bounce back. They know, obviously, how good Elevate is, and honestly just got a taste of the level that they have to reach.
That's very true, because we've seen, you know, in stages of old, guys, we've seen Knights, you know, really perform out of their minds, but we've also seen stages where they have fallen short. Speakeasy coming into the roster, the fact that Luna Metals had time on this roster to, you know, really sit in tight as the coach and start to, I would say, form a relationship with the entire team. Does this make Stage 3 their most dangerous yet?
It really should be. There's no excuses for them not to be dangerous in this stage, in my opinion. We didn't quite get to say that in the first play day, but I would hope going forward that, I mean, you talk about Speakeasy, he should be the most dangerous player on the team. If he gets back on a confident entry role, with the likes of Juicy shot calling, I mean, I could not think of a more dangerous combination. Speakeasy, for the longest time, has shown he's absolutely cracked, and Juicy has been such a cornerstone for the team for the longest time now as well. Yeah, Luna, as you mentioned, into that equation, and so many big brains of the game that have been around for so long to help facilitate a top 2 finish. They have everything in the background to achieve it, and it's all about just executing. So obviously they know that the writing's on the wall for them already, right? They've already lost one game, so they don't have much to fall back on. But the Knights are such a good roster at really, truly believing in one game at a time and just completely forgetting about the context of the match. And that's important going forward for the rest of the stage.
And we'll move forward onto the map veto as well, because it is time for us to decide what map we're going to be going to. Will it be Bank? Will it be Skyscraper? Well, that's interesting. No, not even going to think about it from the Knights. Bank's banned out just toward the end, and we head to Oregon. So, I mean, maybe I'll leave Xenox. I'll leave you up with this, but I do find it interesting that you know, Knights had the opportunity to take them to Bank after their performance last week and have completely banned that out.
Yeah, obviously. I think that obviously for Bank, it was not probably a map that they would want to be revisiting after what happened against Elevate. So for the Knights, I mean, that makes sense why they've obviously gone and banned that one out when they had the opportunity to do so. Oregon, though, I think is actually quite successful here for Fury. It's not a map that we actually see all that often from the Knights, in fact. And, you know, kind of actually was looking back to the last time these two teams played, and it was actually a Fury victory over the Knights. Now, that was back on Villa, hence obviously the Knights sort of banning out Villa. Skyscraper itself as well, is that really a map that we see much from the Knights? The answer is no. So again, when you kind of look at these ban phases, really, it's just the Knights are just taking out maps that either Fury has beat them on or maps that they just don't want to play. Bank obviously then gets towards the end-ish of the queue, probably based more on what happened last week.
Sorry, guys, I didn't expect him to talk for the whole
come on, you've
entirety
been working
of that
with him
veto.
for a while
You should
now.
expect
I know,
that.
I should have understood
That's
that.
pretty bad for you, Rob.
It is. It was rookie mistake. Look, in fact, the game is ready, but I'll very quickly, guys, do you have any final thoughts?
The big thing for me is just looking at the Knights' record here on Oregon.
Yeah.
There isn't one. They haven't played the map all year. So let's see what they can bring, and let's see if it's enough to take down Fury.
Well, will Knights bounce back, or are Fury going to look hot for Stage 3? We're going to find out with our wonderful two casters, Devin Mend.
Very clean. Thank you so much, Rob. This is a high-stakes game for the Knights. If they can make it to the major, they're also looking like a really strong shoe-in for Six Invitational. So there is a lot behind this one. But my question is, are they going to be able to bounce back after such a gut-wrenching loss last week to Elevate?
I really hope that they do, Dev. Now, we spoke to Knights just last week. We had a bit of a yarn with them late at night. And they said when these guys lost Stage 2 to Fury, it was a big upset. It really hit them hard that week, and they really had a long chat about it. They fixed up what they needed to, got their mental game back upright straight away, and they're able to come back in the next week. And I think that's exactly what they need to do here in this stage as well. They are a team that takes things week by week, and now's their chance at redemption against Fury.
Well, there's revenge up on the menu for the Knights, looking to take down the Boogeymen from Stage 2. Fury have been on the up, though they did walk away from their first match last week with an L. Just a single point they managed to achieve against the Direwolves. They'll be gunning for the full 3 today, like they managed to steal away from Knights last stage. We're back on Oregon, as Guz so aptly put, a map we have never seen Knights play in the last 3 months.
This is an interesting one for me. To go back to Oregon again, of course, the bans have played out quite differently from the last time that we casted this, Jev. Thatcher's been left in instead, and we've taken out the Nook. One set of nades only leaves in one more viable set of nades in that sledge, and so on the side of the attack, really, you have what you need to open up the site as much as possible. On the side of defense, we've got one last ban to come through now.
And, ooh, see Azami. It's the first Azami ban of the night, I believe. We've seen a lot of Azami across the board ever since she's come into the game, into the pool. She's been a mainstay and very specific to some maps, and I would say Oregon being one of them. I even remember earlier tonight, the game that we casted between Gladiators and Wildcard, there was a lot of Azami on just about every bomb site.
I've got to say, Dev, I do feel like this current meta of Rainbow Six has got to be some of the most exciting that we've watched in a very long time. I don't know if you would agree with me on this one, but every time we go into these ban phases and we chat about what's being left in the map, what options there are for either side, I keep finding myself saying, oh, there are so many things that either side can do. And that's exactly what this current meta of Siege is. There's so much room for creativity. There are so many operators that are important that you just can't ban out all of them anymore. And so being able to deal with everything in different situations is exactly the strength that teams need nowadays. And that requires a lot of problem solving. As a result, we always get exciting matches, even on boring maps like Borgen, as I usually like to call it, but they're suddenly made so much more interesting to watch because every game is so dynamic and different.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with you. And even some of the most banned operators in the game in history, things like Thatcher, which has managed to slip through this ban phase, partly because of those EMPs, making it into the secondary EMP gadgets coming into the game. And with those impact EMPs, we've seen them used earlier today to mixed success. That Thatcher ban is no longer as impactful as it once was. We're seeing Mira slip through the ban phase here on Oregon once again. We saw it played quite a bit by Gladiators earlier today against Wildcard. And I totally agree with you. It makes the game a lot more exciting. It means it's always fresh. It means you really get to use your operator bans for something that you want to specifically target and throw a spanner in the works, rather than just doing that kind of always blanket, oh yeah, everyone always bans Valkyrie, who, by the way, has also been left in here. So I love it. I think it's been a real fresh face.
And it's really exciting the way that it's changed up Oregon as a map as well. I personally feel like Oregon at one point was kind of stale. There was really only so many types of attacks that you could achieve on each of the bomb sites. But I feel like with the new tools that attackers have, especially with attacker repick, and you've always got the right hard breach in your hands, there are so many ways that you can open up each bomb site, and it's made defending quite difficult, I would say, on this map. I think that defenders have had to get a little bit more creative with the style of roam that they're going for and how they're setting up the site and the construction of it, that all of a sudden, Oregon is a very exciting match to watch, and I never thought I would ever be saying that, but it is.
And what I find is the more attacker-sided the game gets, the more it forces the defenders to be aggressive, because you can't just wait. Otherwise, the attackers, they've got all the tools and all the time to deal with you. And so, for example, in our game earlier today on Oregon, we actually ended up seeing a dead even 5 rounds of attack and 5 rounds of defense, won across the board, dead 50-50. And so I love seeing that the defenders get aggressive. It creates a whole different style of game that, when it does rear its ugly, chaotic head, it gives us a lot of work, as we experienced earlier today. Wouldn't be surprised if we see a little bit of that again here, especially with something like Valkyrie in the mix. I'd love to see what kind of plays talented players can make when they have the Valk in their hands.
And I think that's kind of what we have to expect in this matchup as well, right? Everything has been left in for the attackers. Thatcher's left in, and all your hard breaches left in. So there's no way that the site is staying closed off. You know, there's no way that you're going to have all 5 of your anchors on the site and they're feeling comfy and they're feeling happy. All the walls are going to be open for them, right? And so it's really going to be on the onus of the defense to make a creative roam game, to put that pressure on through the mid rounds, so that by the time they get to that late rounds, then the attackers are in a flurry and hopefully the defense can find the timing to win it out, right? Because otherwise your whole site has been opened up. Azami is also banned out too, so you can't make any like impromptu patches or anything like that, a little mini deployable shield spots or something like that, right? And so I feel like the defense has got to have a lot of pressure on this early to mid round to be successful.
Mentioned as well that the Nook had been banned out, leaving 1 less set of nades on viable operators. I mean, there's only 4 operators in the game with nades, right? Nook, Sledge, Yana, and Glaz. No one plays Glaz, so that means with Nook banned, it's basically just your Sledge and Yana. I expect we'll see quite a bit of Yana. But the other attacker that I'm thinking about who has been banned is that Ying, which Fury got rid of. Now, we've seen so much Ying on Oregon. An operator that thrives and creates chaos. And with that banned out, it's going to allow, I think, a different style of gameplay, probably less hatch drops on the basement side, and more slow and steady takes, maybe using nades, Sophia concussion utility to try and clear power positions. And I'm keen to see something where your entire screen isn't white the entire time. We actually get to see a lot of the action.
That would be good, especially after how that last Oregon game ensued. Oh my goodness, I did not feel worthy of breaking down some of those rounds, Dev, because that was just pure and utter calamity. What was happening in that last round? Oh, really, just the Ying just throws such a spanner in the works. Even for us, we're just watching it on the sidelines and we're like, what on earth? We cannot see anything. The defense is blind. And so are the attackers as well, probably blinding their own teammates. I feel like that's the nature of playing Ying. And so hopefully, in this game, we get to see more.
Yeah, hopefully we will. We are just, as you can see, I'm sure, having a little technical issue. We're running that through, making sure we can get into the game as soon as possible. So bear with us here. Now, Mandy, you mentioned before that we had a good chance to chat to the Knights. It was a week ago. It was before their Elevate game. I felt like it was a really insightful conversation. They started by trolling us and telling us that Juicy had been put onto entry fragger and that Speakeasy was on support. and they could only hold that up for about 5 minutes before we finally realized they were trolling. And yeah, Juicy is indeed the Don on support. His teammates had a lot of good things to say about him. And Speakeasy, joining this roster, is taking a bit more of an aggressive position alongside Stigs, whereas Sajin has kind of moved back and taken a less aggressive role compared to he used to be the king of opening kills on this team. And I'm keen to see how this role shift can elevate the Knights, because we haven't seen it as of yet, with their only game in Stage 3 being that incredibly disappointing match against Elevate.
Something that interests me about this roster is that when they spoke to us about these role swaps, Sage was so humble about it as well. He went into it. We asked him, so how do you feel about swapping off your entry role? And Sage immediately goes, oh, well, I wasn't really that great on it. Meanwhile, like the best...
Statistically, he was.
Statistically, like the best entry player in this entire league. He goes, no, I wasn't that good at it. I reckon Speakeasy's better at this. So just, yeah, put me on a role where I can make more calls and support the team, and we'll be all right. And honestly, I rate that so much from him. He knows exactly what he wants to. He's historically been a big voice in this team. When you spoke to them last time, I believe, Dev, you could correct me wrong, but Sage was one of the big vocal players back then as well. And I can only imagine now on his new role, he's got that opportunity to do that once again for the Knights.
Josh, the man on screen, has been a bit of a quiet achiever. In Stage 2, he was actually the top 5 for KD and rating in the entire of APAC South. And it's funny because Josh doesn't tend to be a player whose name we say all the time, especially when you've got players like flashy players like Stigs on the team, when you've got well-renowned support players like Juicy, when you've got a new guy joining the team like Speakeasy. Josh kind of slips under the radar, but he is oh so consistent.
It's pretty impressive what the Knights have been able to show so far throughout this year, but still no international performance, Sev. That's the absolute killer for this team. They look so good on paper. They look so great mentally, team dynamic, everything. But for some reason, they just cannot close it out. And I think against Fury today, especially with their history against this team and what's happened back in Playday 1, this needs to be a win for the Knights to come away strong into Stage 3.
Yeah, and just on that, to double down, we talked a lot about how you really can't afford to lose more than 2 games. Even 2 games itself is a bit too close for comfort. In Stage 2, the 2 teams that made it to the major, Elevate and Gladiators, they both lost 2 games. Every other team in the league lost at least 3. So you can see that was the clear divide, right? The teams that lost more than 2 games did not make the major. And that was when we had 8 teams. Now we only have 7 teams. The stakes are even higher. The room for error has been reduced. You lose 2 games, especially if they're 3-point losses like Knights' L last week. That is very scary. That is potentially the chance at the major done. And there's a lot of hype behind Knights this stage to potentially steal away Gladiators' spot from Stage 2 at that major, this time in Stage 3. Fury could be the one to put that first nail in the coffin for Knights. If Fury win this game, which they are entirely capable of, and they have been on the up recently, it could spell doom for the Knights.
And I feel like you can easily flip that story for Fury too, right? They didn't win their game last week, as far as I remember. And so if they win this one, then basically you've got like almost every team on just 1 win, right? Aside from Tide, who haven't been able to win anything. And so if the Knights are able to take down Fury here, it pretty much locks Fury out of the major contention spot as well, right? So for both of these teams, this is all right, we're getting a bit close to the point where we might not be able to go to an international event. So let's turn it up, boys, because we really need this win tonight.
We can say as consolation for Fury, at least they do have 1 point that they managed to get off of Dials by pushing them to overtime last week.
That's true.
But also, we don't really expect Fury to be one of the serious major contenders. APAC South is typically very close. At Stage 1, these guys were well and truly at the bottom. They didn't get a single point. Stage 2, they managed to do a lot better. They had some really good games, but they still only ended up in 6th place. Whereas Knights in Stage 2 were 3rd place and realistically only 1 win away from taking that spot at the major. When they lost to Gladiators, that was what copped the L for them and their chance of making that event. Fury, it does feel like they're at quite a different position. They're not necessarily expecting to make the major. If you ask Knights, they probably wouldn't say they're expecting to make it, but I feel like whether they want that pressure or not, it is there. Everyone is placing it on them, their fans. Like, there's an expectation that Knights should be doing better, especially now picking up a player as prolific as Speakeasy. Fury probably have a little bit less of that pressure on their shoulders. That's why I think they're really deadly. We saw that in Stage 2. They demolished Knights, and they put Knights in that position where they then had to beat Gladiators to make the major, and Fury were, in a way, that killing blow. And a team with less pressure is also more dangerous than a team that has all this extra weight on their shoulders.
I think I'd have to agree with you. When we spoke to the Knights about how they're approaching each week, they said, I think it was Josh that said, as soon as you say things like expectation of like making these majors, that's immediately stress. And that's not something that you want to have in a game. That's not the mental state that you want to be in. You just want to be able to take each week by week, one at a time, and not say we should be beating this team or we should be going to an international event. Because as soon as you start doing that, you start getting a bit complacent. You don't treat the game with the respect that it deserves. And against a team like Fury, who is definitely the bogeyman of not just this team, but the league in general, I would say that they cannot let their guard down at all.
Yeah, particularly when Fury has picked up a player like I9, a lot of experience that he has had with Elevate, going to the Six Invitational, for example, and being on Elevate, maybe not quite at their peak, but when they were still the best in APAC and the best in APAC South, a very dangerous player, a very aggressive player, and moving from Stage 1, where Fury didn't get a point, to Stage 2, where they've injected this extra bit of energy, this bit of revival. BG Man as well, who also came from Elevate, has helped with that as well. Fury is by no means a team to be trifled with. However, we are going to go to a really quick break while we sort out this technical issue, so don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Oh, there's no better time than now. You just can't beat this feeling. Oh, I can't get enough. I keep going up. You just can't beat this feeling. This is my kind of love. We keep going up. I wanna day and night, 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 day and night, 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 day and night, 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 day and night, 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 night. I wanna day and night. Come on, you're standing on the edge tonight. You watch me like a satellite. Oh, come on and dive with me. It's time to see the color changing in the light. The future's looking pretty bright. Oh, come on and shine with me, shine with me. come alive. Waiting till the time is right. This could be the best night. As long as you're with me, you're here now. I can see that this is really happening. Honestly, don't you really wanna try?
Welcome back, guys. It's time to get stuck into the game. Finally, we're all reared up and ready to go. Knights taking on Fury, and we are heading to Oregon. It's the final match of tonight here at APAC South Stage 2, Stage 3 Playday 2. Mandy, it is time.
It is time. We are back in it. Oh no, I cursed it. I'm so sorry. I absolutely cursed it.
wait,
The
just-
moment that wait,
Let's leave it.
checking
wait.
possible dub.
We will...
Checking.
No.
Checking.
We're just checking. We're just checking. We can just talk about the game. It's Knights. We've talked about how there's a lot of pressure on them. But Fury tend to be the upset kings.
Hey,
We are in.
the
Correct.
dub has come through. We're all
Checking
good.
possible dub. Dub confirmed. I don't know. I forget that meme.
I feel like we're not very good with memes. That's
No.
something that we're not.
We'll work on that.
Yeah. We're not very strong in that on our cast, though. We gotta
Yeah.
get more of this Zoomer meme culture in. Anyway, starting out on
You're
this
the
top
Zoomer,
floor.
not me.
Am I? I guess I
You take
am actually.
responsibility for
I
being
do,
the Zoomer
I
memer,
do
right?
take responsibility for being the Zoomer memer. Maybe I've got to get on that a bit more.
I
Anyway,
expect that for next time, please.
we're in the top floor now. Kids and Dorms, the first bomb site to be contested by Fury. Typically, we see basement being the first primary bomb site going in, but not on this one. Looking to do a ground floor roam, reinforcing off meeting, that type of thing. Expecting the Knights to try and look for this clear across from the white stairs.
Not looking to reinvent the wheel is Fury here. Pretty common to roam down below in kitchen. Keen to see what Knights intend to do with some of these less conventional operator picks, particularly that Capitao, not something you see every day. I expect Juicy's probably spawned over near Big Tower, and he's going to use those secondary hard breach charges to open attic. But aside from that, what is the intent with the fire and the smoke of the Capitao?
Oh, look at that Pogmat just sitting underneath where that hard breach charge is going to go on the wall. We keep an eye on that one for later on in the mid-round. Entry's already come through on the side of Knights. Stiggs making his way up the armory stairs, being live droned in as well. We'll meet no Fury players of Resistance just yet. Most of them still sitting on the site, 2 on the ground floor. Knights will have to be careful of their flank watch a bit later on. Oh, no.
There you go. There's the breach. Surely that Pogmat has been droned. I'm pretty sure it just was. The Capitao's secondary hard breach has opened up the wall. Josh is droning ahead for now. And Knights are starting to make some quite slow progress.
Progress is going underway, like you said. Still a minute 30 left, and the site has a big gaping hole in it. So I would say the Knights have done a pretty good job thus far, hoping that Josh doesn't get caught out by this frost mat, of course, as they look for their execute. Oh no, I cursed
Still a
it.
while away. Did he actually walk
I
into
cursed
it?
it.
Come on, Josh. You can't let that happen, mate. That is not a great start, though. The trade is there. And it looks like Knights are keen to make an early execute here. As I say that, Surya Gate does re-enable. Speakeasy tries to make an entry, is taken down, not before the trade comes through. And immediately shut down is Sage, who was looking to get that plant down. Juicy's fire is not quite enough, and now he's the only one left against 3 Fury players. You could write the end of the round here. It is a good opener from Fury.
Not bad on the side of Fury, but oh dear, poor Josh. We absolutely did him dirty just then, looking at him directly, getting hit by that frost mat coming through attic. Really a stunted part of this Knights push. They couldn't get that pinch coming in from attic onto the players that were playing in that kids choke point, which is exactly where BG Man was. And as a result, the trades just didn't really come through on the side of the Knights. Fury able to clean up this round. Only 10 seconds now as well for Juicy. To find 3 players seems like a pretty tall order.
Yeah, he's not even going to find one. There you go. Good open up from Fury. Nice attempt there from the Knights, but really having Josh go down to that frost map meant that Knights realistically only had pressure from the one direction. They were pushing almost solely from the concrete door from Trophy and from the breach, with just Juicy playing on that double window. Didn't prove to quite be enough. So Fury starts strong here. Knights can't afford to drop too many rounds on their attacking side, especially keeping in mind the amount of anticipation behind this roster. Everyone wants to know, are Knights going to make the major? Is Speakeasy going to be the missing ingredient?
Fury, though, they'll take us down to the basement as their second bomb site of choice. Looking for a small room upstairs. We'll see if they keep this meeting hatch closed or open. Seems like they will close it. So looking for something a bit more conventional, just sitting there on the site, not looking to fall off and play through meeting like we've seen come into fashion quite recently. Instead, actually, they've opened up the security hatch. So looking to hold onto this dining security side of the map, anticipating a small tower push perhaps, and allowing them to fall off a little earlier.
I'm keen to see how long this roam can hold on. Fury are a team that, as far as APAC South goes, reasonably well-renowned as a quite an aggressive region. Fury definitely one that falls into that category, more so than the Knights. Wonder if this Monty is going to be able to assist with the roam clear, or whether Juice is going to be looking to more head-on to site direct.
Seems like the Knights have read into the roam game that Fury are currently playing. They've realized they've kept the meeting hatch closed, but security is pretty heavily contested right now. So let's enter in from the point that we know is safe, that we're not immediately going to meet the face of the roamers. That's exactly what Styx has done alongside of Juicy, already getting inside of meeting, playing that control early, getting ready to take the gunfight onto these roamers on the ground floor.
Now they're starting to drone out more positions. Now Josh is also on the Jackal, so if he goes somewhere he reckons there might be footprints, could potentially reveal one of these player locations. There's Josh getting info on 2 players in kitchen. Now Knights know that there's actually not a lot of pressure on site. Stig's really feeling that pressure now though. The players in kitchen start to make some noise, open some extra lines of sight. But at this rate, looks like most of the Fury guys have actually dropped back to site.
Yeah, the Knights, they have a very good grip on this roam game on the side of Fury, except for the one little sneaky alibi in the top of Armory. That would be Hajime making his way down, now trying to rejoin his teammates as we'll make it back down safely. And now Fury all back in the site, having wasted enough time. But for the Knights, they've made some pretty excellent progress on that side as well. E-box hatch already open. They can start to use the Monty for that backstairs. We've got the Flores of Speakeasy making his way down into bunker as well. There's lots of progress being made for the Knights, but the executor's already happening.
Well, it's starting to happen, but well-placed peek there from one of the Fury players makes it a bit more difficult now for Knights. Just Josh and Juicy left up. Sage not seeming to be in a resable position. It's only Josh now, 1v3. Not looking to crash hot, you could say. Can take down one, and the immediate trade is back again. Fury not really letting Knights get a proper execute.
I would say that felt a little ill-advised on the side of Knights. I felt like although they had a great grip of the roam, they still had enough time to figure out the right timing to make their push a little bit simultaneous. We were on the perspective of Speakeasy. He started making his bunker push, but he was only just throwing in his utility. One of the defenders that was playing inside of Elbow found some great timing to make that swing happen. And for the Knights, it just felt a little bit disconnected on the execute there. They weren't able to play the trades out in a way that they were in close enough proximity for that to work. And as a result, Fury, they used those power positions completely to their favor and able to close out the round.
It's a very slow start for Knights here, Mandy. At what point do we start to get concerned? We have placed a huge amount of pressure on them. Even if they're the ones to say that we only take this league one game at a time, if they lose this, they'll need to win all of their remaining games, 4 games in a row, and even then, the chances of making the major will look slim, particularly because they didn't get even a single point in their first game. I mean, if it's a regulation loss here, I think I'd be pretty confident to say Knights aren't going to the major.
Look, I'm worried, but I'm not too worried. I feel like these last 2 rounds are nothing to panic over too much. I don't feel like Knights are playing bad Siege at the moment. It's just 2 of these rounds where sometimes things do not work out the way you want it to. Sometimes you get Rainbow Six Sieged on, you know? It happens. You just gotta settle down, take care a little bit with these gunfights and get back on the same page, and that is completely fine. I feel like that's something that Knights are capable of. Sometimes not everything goes to plan, and that's okay.
Bit of a roam here from Fury. Pressure on the top floor as Juicy moves on in, starts to place down an exothermic and breach open this wall into games from the Master Closet. Right on the back of it, Speakeasy actually finds an early pick, taking down Hajime and putting extra pressure on by taking down that split double door barricade. A really good start now for Knights and their best chance of finding an in into this game.
The Knights are starting to shape the diffuser around this big tower push. We've got Juicy on the Thermite starting to make his way in, but will be met by the resistance of BG Man, currently playing on the stage. Juicy, of course, will need to start getting those exothermic charges on the wall, enabling his team to have a line of sight, preparing for the retake that'll come through once they try and go for this execute inside of meeting. We can see that wall up in attic being opened up now, a player residing there, waiting in case there are any Fury players getting aggressive back on that attic position.
What's the play now for Knights? Got man advantage, got a lot of time. What are you going to be able to do with it? With that big blow, Stig's going down. That's just BG Man on site. A long angle through the breach, in fact. No response.
Oh, not only
I say
that, they're going to have to be very careful on the time, though, Dev. There's only a minute left, and both the Yokai drones, I believe, are still active for I9. I think he just got off one of them that is active. We can see Hajime is on it at the moment. So if Knights leave it too late, this could be to their demise. They cannot leave it to the last 20 seconds.
Yeah, and on top of that, like, Hollis has got a real shot at a flank here, so there's a lot for Knights to worry about. That said, there comes the logic bomb. The telltale sound of that Dokkaebi core goes out, but like Hollis, has he been accounted for? Sage comes in to save the day, but I9 could do so as well. It's all I9 with the Yokai drones to try and clutch out this round. Can he take down Sage? No, a monstrous round from Sage himself. And Knights finally get themselves into the game.
When you're Juicy and you say, all right, guys, I'm going for it, cover me, bro, Sage is exactly the player that you want on your side. Not only does he turn around and kill the flanker of Lycolos, he even defends Juicy from the Yokai drones. Even though I9 went for that swing in that peak, it wasn't successful. Sage was able to take him down, and Knights finally clean up yet another round. I like that round a lot better. They didn't give away the man advantage. They said, okay, we've got it now. Let's just take our time, make sure we're on the same page, and make sure everything comes together nicely. And it absolutely did in that round. And that's exactly what you need to do against a team like Fury, who is, like, arguably giving Knights a lot of respect in this particular matchup. I don't think they're playing anything too aggressive. They're not going for anything silly. They're just playing some pretty regular Siege here, and the Knights just need to get back on the same page.
Well, if they can take the momentum from that third round and push it into the rest of this half, I'd say there's a good shoe-in here for Knights. But realistically, I'd be aiming for a 3-3 on the attacking side. 3-3 on the defense is probably all right for Fury. Just knowing that the game earlier today on Oregon ended up at dead 50-50, if you want to have the best chance of taking this game without going overtime, you want to get 4 rounds in this half. Now, that is perfectly possible here for Fury. It just means winning Dorms and Laundry each one more time. But for Knights, I'm not so convinced that's possible.
We will have to wait and see what they can do just off the back of that round. Can they continue the momentum, or will it start to fall apart once again? Got Josh first on the entry, immediately putting down some Nomad jabs, preventing any flanks that might come through Speakeasy as well, of course. The player that we've put the spotlight onto, the new entry for this team, making his way in on the sledge. 2 sets of nades in hand should be enough to clear out this position in pit as well for the Knights, and it looks like the push, this pinch onto the attic position will be a lot more successful than it was the previous attempt.
Well, no frost mats to worry about, thankfully. Josh is going to be appreciating that. Juicy getting a nice breach on, but I9 with this early aggro takes down Speakeasy and gets hungry for more. Takes Sage very, very low and does not back away. Still no breach. Finally, I9 shut down, but that's a pretty significant blow. And Knights are going to have to make sure they can recompose.
Knights from here out, they need to play the attrition game. They've just lost one set of nades. Okay, that's all right. That's not too bad. Oh, vertical grenades come through. So close to connecting onto that poor mute player BG man looking to replace the jammer, but takes a... He's all right, thankfully. He gets away with his life, and this time Josh is able to creep his way through Attic as well. A much better position at the moment for the Knights on this attack.
But when is Josh going to move up? When is he going to take this advanced position? Here's Lycolis. Reveals his position. Doesn't go for the peak. Juicy does find one from the double window, and Sage wins his one. This is suddenly looking a little grim for Fury. Hajime finds one, traded back, and it is all on Dark. Lost, bothered, and bewildered down below. Bit of a pre-fire into one of the default positions, but unfortunately for him, it does not net a kill. 1v3 retake, but one that's possible on account of Stigs and Sage being low HP. Good cover from the master position, but a great spray back again. And Stigs loses his head. Josh is really the one that must be called upon here. Is it possible for Dark to make this work? Time ticking away. We've got to isolate these 1v1s, but that's a lovely long angle from Josh. Not peeking, playing passive, waiting out the time. And just like that, the round is done. Sage can be the killing blow, and Knights go 2 back-to-back.
That was good from the Knights. They anticipated the aggression, the re-aggress, I would say, from I9 coming through Master's side. They know that's the kind of player he is. So Sage is going to watch back on the top of that car and wait, sorry, with Stigs rather, on the top of that truck, waiting for the aggression to come through. And as a result, the Knights, even though their attack was weakened, they immediately punished the mistakes of Fury off the back of that. And from there, getting open the wall, the position in Attic was a lot more successful for Josh, and they were able to make that push work much, much better. And now we're at this even scoreline, Dev, where Knights, they're starting to get back into it, they're finding their flow, and Fury don't seem to have an answer for it just yet.
That said, Fury just need to win one more round here to have an acceptable defense half. That's the danger for me, that Knights started so slow. I like that Fury are keeping that confidence. We look at I9 going aggressive at the start of last round, but they need to make sure it's well-toned and well-tamed, because great, I9 got a pick, but then he did end up giving off the trade and letting Knights get a man back on their side. Ended up being a even man advantage later on. Knights ran away with it. So Fury really just need to have a bit more of a keen read on when to go and when not to.
Right, the Knights now looking to defend, to attack this basement bomb site. Fury once again looking for a pretty light roam. Still some players in the ground floor. Actually, not a whole lot of players in the bomb site. I've lied to myself. Actually, quite a lot of roamers off the bomb site. BG Man, the only one left. The rest of Fury players situated in different positions around the map, quite separated thus far. And Knights, they're looking to do this roam clear quite swiftly. Speakeasy the first in the building, already creating some long lines of sight to cut off these top floor players.
No blood drawn as of yet, and there is a retreat opportunity for the player in Kids Dorms. Great little quick peek for info from Speakeasy. He's not able to deliver as of yet. 2 players from Fury have now forfeited back into Kids Dorms, and there is a player from Knights in Dining ready to wait for them to drop that hatch.
And this is a great little hammer and anvil play that they're going for. We've got Sage on the entry here, looking to flush the roamers inside of the kids' bedroom into the line of sight of Stigs, who I believe is playing inside of Dining, covering this hatch drop. He must have just heard that come through, now looking for the peak, starting to make his way into security, but Hajime's actually gotten away with his life.
The timing just hasn't worked out for him. He's walking dangerously close to this C4. Oh no! The angle doesn't work out in Stigs' favor. He actually loses most of his health to that C4 as well.
Oh, but look at this. I9 in a bit of a cheeky position, still holding on to T1 in a position that still has not been droned out for the Knights. Typically, we see roamers do this on the stairwell itself, but not many players would do that. This inside this little pocket part here, Sage, oh, okay, he's just spotted out I9. He's not going to play the aggression game like he did in the last round and will get away with his life.
Fury have done such a good job of wasting drones here, though, from Knights. Like, look at it, 3 drones left, and Stiggs is going to have to try and utilize his Geminis as much as possible to make up for that, but he's distracted with his nades. Look at that, completely open wall, the nade caught by an ADS as well.
And really, there's not a whole lot of time here for the Knights, Dev. It's starting to look a lot like a Fury round with only 35 seconds left to go, and our drones are only just now starting to get into the bomb site.
Finally, though, Stiggs can open up the round for Knights. Finds a pick onto Lycolis. Josh looking for the backstab from Bunker. DMR in hand. Good flash, though. That may well reveal the position of the player to his right. He flashes himself as well. And now there's a chance for Fury to get back in. That's I9. It's Warden. Of course it is. Speakeasy caught out. It's all up to Sage, and it's not going to happen. What a round from Fury. Pure chaos. And that is where they thrive.
Fury played such a great roam game there. They really knew exactly how to slip through the cracks of that attack. Even though the Knights went for a pretty great pinch clear there, it wasn't well timed. Unfortunately, Stiggs, he just came a millisecond too late coming round that doorway and just misses out on catching Hajime on that hatch drop. Same thing with I9, even though he was tucked away in the pocket, he didn't repeat the mistake that he did in the previous round and get aggressive. He fell off back to his teammates instead, knowing that he had wasted plenty of time. And these Knights players, they really did not have the time in their hands to drone out the bomb site and go for as clean of an execute as they would like.
Starting to wonder whether perhaps we got a little bit too excited for Knights, knowing how well they did in Stage 2, knowing what each individual player is capable of, and seeing what Speakeasy could bring to the roster, like in theory, right? Now we're seeing them in this game losing to Fury. Now it's not by much, I'll give you that, but after the devastating game last week and then not coming out strong at the start of this week, I'm starting to get worried, Mandy. I'm worried that perhaps we overhyped Knights a little bit. This is not what we expected to see from such a promised team. And we need to see more.
I'm actually going to give it a bit to Fury here, Dev. I think that Fury over the course of this year have really come together as a roster. Right at the beginning, they couldn't pick up a single map. They went completely winless, as far as I'm aware. In Stage 2 and Stage 3, they really started to make comments about how they want to change up their strategy. They're changing their philosophy. They're changing roles. They changed their roster. They've started to take this league very seriously, and as a result, they've caused upsets to teams that have not given them the respect that they deserve for the work that they're into trying to come together and being one of these top teams. And I think that Knights are kind of in that position now as well, right? They have a new roster now. They've got Speakeasy, who's replaced Quiz. And I just feel like they've underestimated Fury a little bit. This is still a team that knows how to play good Rainbow Six Siege.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I don't want to take anything away from Fury here. They're a good team. And they are playing into the fact that Knights are playing slow. They're playing reluctantly. They're losing a lot of drones in the early and mid-round. And stalling on some things that perhaps they shouldn't stall on. Like, is really the plan here for Knights if they can't open this breach, like just to try and shoot that mute jammer, because they're struggling to do so. And now the opening pick has gone in Hajime's favor. Knights has already lost Stiggs. The Geminis along with it, plus the nades.
Hajime and the rest of Fury have just been super present on this clear so far on the side of the defense, really. Every point that the Knights have stepped their foot into the building, they've been met by some kind of resistance from Fury. We saw Hajime, he immediately contested that push coming in through lobby. Now Speakeasy and Josh, they're going to have to double down to try and clear him out in the basement. This is a huge time sink for the Knights, a flash and go through and the frag to follow up, but really it's a 4v4 situation, only a minute left, and not a whole lot of progress has been made on the map itself.
Credit to Hajime, he's found a pick, and he's also wasted enough time to allow Dark to get aggressive into that position and take down Josh now. Really well played from Fury. Now Knights caught out, and they're going to have to do everything they can in a 2v4. BG Man doing damage, and Stiggs walks straight into the fire. Fury take a convincing half, 4-2.
I'm going to double down on my point and say that Fury are just super present on their defense. Everywhere that the Knights go, they're not getting super aggressive like we saw from I9 one of the early rounds, but they're there. we saw Knights player try and shoot the mute jammer through the floor. There was an alibi sitting inside of Attic getting ready to contest that vertical once it came through. We saw Hajime. He knew that they were going to go for a lobby take. He knows that they always do the vertical grenade from that classroom window, so he contests it early. That kind of thing, that proactiveness on the side of the Fury defense is really what stunted Knights in the early game. And as a result, Fury have come away with a 4-2 half, and that's just such an excellent scoreline to come away with from your defense.
Now Knights will try to redeem themselves on their own defense, but yeah, I definitely think this is a time where you start to get worried if you're a Knights fan, because Fury are looking in strong form and Knights are not quite as confident as I expected. They're not quite as impressive as we had thought they would be. They've started slow in stage 3, and you also got to wonder with every single round that passes where they make a critical mistake or they get outplayed by a formidable opponent, does that hit their confidence even more?
I think we won't call it too early for the Knights. They have swapped onto their defense half after all, and maybe they're just not too great at attacking Oregon. Who knows? Maybe their defense strat book looks incredible, and of course they'll start us off here on this top floor bomb site. Pretty similar to what Fury brought us to as well, not looking to start out on the basement, which is what we've seen in recent times. Immediately putting pressure onto this master hold, a shield inside of the master bedroom itself on the bed, and another one in trophy, but it doesn't seem like I9 is afraid at all, marching his way straight in the building.
Ooh. But I like that from Knights. Juicy is going for the Sonic Burst with the Yokai to try and make that shield drop. So, oh no, he misses it. So Sage can't get the shots that he wants. Wow, this is very aggressive Monty play. Sage trying to duel him, but it's very difficult. Goes for the reload. Elsewhere, Dark finds the opening kill. Speakeasy goes down. Sage in a bit of a pickle. He's got to find at least one of these players to have a decent shot. And still, that Monty is being such a menace. Dark finds another one. Sage runs away. And Juicy has taken his place. They've taken down one player, but this is just pure chaos. I've never seen anything like it. Finally, Knights win out the exchange.
That was crazy on the side of Sage and Juicy. Sage goes, Juicy, man, I really need some help. I don't need your yokai drone. I need your gun, bro. I gotta reload right now. And Juicy's like, all right, I'll tag in. You get out. Sage runs straight out of trophy, comes back in and goes for the frag. That was a crazy mid-round interaction. And now Juicy is actually left inside of trophy, stuck. There's a player on top of the armory stairs.
Oh,
There's one on Master. He takes the swing and he does not win it. Dark to take down 2.
Yeah, and now he's found 4 on the round as well. This man has turned it up. Could well ace. All he's got to land is a single bullet onto Sage. This is a tall order. Sage goes for the spray, doubles back, and Hajime takes him out. Fury are looking good. What a chaotic round. And Knights once again put in the dirt.
I just can't believe that we saw, Dev. These games have been absolute chaos. I just love this current brand of Rainbow Six, don't you think so? This is so much fun. Every single mid-round is exciting because the attack always brings something new. They always try and problem solve in a way that's fun for us to watch. Like, it is not every day that you can see a Monty and a Hibana make a tussle with the Supernova, with the Suppressor, and an alibi there who has to reload and use the bailiff instead. Like, that is not something that you see every day, and it is so much fun to watch.
And credit to I9 on the Monty. He might not have found a kill. He might have eventually lost his life. But he really put Knights under the pump there, and it allowed the rest of Fury to spring into action, particularly Dark, who found half his kills in the entire game in that one round right there.
That is pretty insane on the side of Fury. They read that inside really well. They realized that the Knights players will start to reconvene back into the bomb site once that pressure came through from the side of the Monty and the Hibana. And residing one of your cutoff players in Dark on those armory stairs or somewhere around lobby is exactly what he needed to anticipate any Knights players that, okay, maybe they're looking for vertical C4s, maybe they're looking to retake up the armory stairs, pinch out our attackers, something like that. They had a great read on what Knights could have done to try and prevent that push from happening. Now the Knights will take us down to this basement bomb site instead, not looking to repeat the top floor off the back of their tactical timeout.
Well, They're certainly going to need to bring something vastly different to what we've seen so far. I want to see a Knights that has a bit more fire. I want to see a Knights that's got the confidence to just go for it. Because Fury have been dictating the pace of this game. And even when Knights have slowed down and punished it, they've slowed down so much that they put themselves in such a difficult position in the late round.
This has been pretty tough going for the Knights so far, but on that defense half, I'm looking towards them to get a little bit more proactive on this map and directly contest these
gosh.
Fury players. But like
Oh
Hollis
my
will take
God.
one down and Hajime to take down a second. As I say that, the Knights are punished for this early aggression on the small tower push. Fury are on it. 2 minutes 30 in the round, Dev.
Man, you want to talk about early aggression? That was 19 seconds into the round, and Lycolis has found a kill with Amaru's SMG-11 with angled grip. Now he's found one with the Supernova. What's going to stop him? Can anything? Finally, Knights find a pick of their own. But, man, it is looking grim for the Aussies. Fury have done everything that they can to put themselves on match point, and it feels like we're heading that way very shortly.
It is not looking too hot for the guys in orange. Now Fury starting to make their way into this basement floor instead. Josh, he's finding the need to get aggressive, of course, in the man disadvantage. Takes down a drone, but will not give away his life. Going back to the site, the safety of Sage, and he's actually able to land a C4, bringing it to a 2-on-3. Much more manageable for the Knights.
Still drones available for Fury, quite a few of them. And of course the Flores, Roteros, not only for information but to clear util. Onwards marches Dark, and Lycolis goes for a quick peek. What a shot though! It's a trade immediately back on again. Lycolis has been turning it up with this Amaru on the shotty on the SMG-11. It doesn't matter, and now Sage has to clutch. Otherwise it's match point. And indeed it is. Fury, unreal, unbelievable scenes on the back of the Amaru play. They find themselves match point 6-2 up against the Knights.
These guys look pretty happy chappy as well. Look at them go. That was a
You blame
beautiful early... Yeah, can you blame them? That's exactly it, right? What a great early round from Lycolis. Immediately making use of that Gara hook to get into tower control. Simultaneously, you've got such confident entries immediately making their way into small tower. It was, what, like 20 seconds into the building? Like a fast sector time. Talk to me about that, because that was incredibly quick on the side of Fury, oozing confidence. And the Knights, they crumble under that early round pressure once again and lose out the round.
Wow, this is insane. Definitely not a result I expected, and the fashion in which it has occurred as well. Fury are owning this game. Like, they are giving Knights zero respect. And here we have, of course, a blitz play. So surely it's going to be a blitz blue rush. You've got the Lion, you've got the Flores with the Roteros, you've got the Finker as well to help. This is going to work. I feel it in my bones.
You feel it in your bones.
I feel it in my bones. And look, even if it doesn't, it's still an insult to Knights. It's still got to be a tilter.
Attacker's objective is to locate a bomb.
And here it comes. This is their statement to say, Knights, we are better than you are. You guys suck. We're going to rush blue right now. There's only one player contesting this that could possibly be any of resistance to Fury, and look at them go.
And he's already inside. Juicy's found the lead-off kill. Dark goes down. But do Knights know that I9 is already deep into the site? Will they get caught out because of this position?
Bit stagnant though currently on this rush. The only player that was really able to make it in was I9, and now taken very low down by Styx. Is actually holding on to that elbow position. Oh, I9 is able to smoke himself away and now can contest the Psycho position instead. Oh, Fury. This is messy.
So well played, but Knights recompose, and up from the meeting hatch, Speakeasy makes his presence felt. It's been a quiet game from him. The man that was promised. He hasn't delivered, but he does step up here. Fury, no, not without an answer of their own. Knights back at it again, 4v2 for them. They need every round they can get to push back to overtime, to get every single point possible. BG Man got the diffuser, he's got the sight, but he has no chance to plant it. He does find another pick at Speakeasy again. Bit lackluster. There's a real shot in here for BG, man. Don't overpeak, Knights. Don't let Fury get away with it again.
BG Man now rounding the corner of Freezer, but doesn't check the angle properly, and Sage is able to take him down. Lycolis now in a 2-on-1 situation, and the diffuser is down to the hands of the Knights. Looking for a cheeky peek is Sage, but not able to connect the shots, and both Knights players being very passive, just playing the crossfire, waiting for Lycolis.
No drone, one flash, no E1Ds. No info from his teammates, dead silence in the audio call. As he waits for his moment. Taking down the Banshee, conscious bulletproof camera. Reveal his position, conscious of these crossfires. I believe he's already used his Gone 6. Oh. And whatever happened there, Knights do find that final kill and can stave off defeat for at least a little bit longer.
Oh dear, the Knights. Well, look. We called them out for it. We thought that they were going to be insulted, but in fact, they remain composed. And they played that retake so well as well. They didn't take any 1v1s that were unnecessary. We were on the perspective of Hajime. He was holding the cutoff on Laundry Stairs, and we immediately saw two Knights players wait up for each other, do a big 3-2-1 swing onto the back of that Stairs player, and as a result, they were able to play that retake very masterfully. The trades worked out in their favor. Eventually, they're able to clean up the rounds. Now, putting a round on the board, good for the Knights. Still match point for Fury. There's a long way uphill to go.
Well, it all starts here, right? One round at a
Yep.
time, and it's going to have to be 4 defenses in a row. It's going to be a tough one, but in this league, every game matters. Every point matters. Every round matters. And even if it's an overtime loss, it's a hell of a lot better than a regulation loss, especially with such a pitiful round difference that Knights currently has due to their game last week. If you don't believe me that every point matters, right? In Stage 2, Knights had 3 losses, IG had 4 losses, but IG were only a single point behind Knights because every single one of IG's losses was an overtime.
Damn, that's crazy. I can't believe the way that this league is shaped up. Like, Fury, they've got 1 point on the board at this point. They've also got 1 point off the Direwolves game. So even if they do end up losing this one in OT somehow, they will still have 2 points coming away from the second Playday, which is honestly, it's not the end of the world somehow in this league, which is, it's insane, right?
Yeah, but 0 points after 2 Playdays for Knights, not looking good. We got 7 Playdays, but they'll have a bye for one of them. And they got quite a few strong teams that are not free wins still ahead of them, particularly the Gladiators. Now Sage, aggressive, falls back. It's this Monty once again. Is the Monty able to force that shield down? I don't think it has been able to. Oh, Sage doesn't realize, but by about a millimeter, he barely survived. Getting harassed now by I9, and he falls back.
I prefer that call from Sage as well. They're not willing to play that mid-round tussle anymore, and they're just going to fall back. Wait for Fury to come in and Sage is like, look, I'm not getting into that anymore. I'm waiting for my teammates to get back onto the site before we try and take any more fights.
Thing is, for me, that's strange for Knights. Like, they knew that I9 was probably going to go this Monty, yet they didn't bring many Monty counters. There's no impact grenades. There's only one C4, no smoke, which is probably the most obvious shield counter. I'm a bit bewildered.
Look, maybe it's not about changing the operators, but they change in the approach instead. This time, they just didn't want to contest that early because that was a huge time sink for Fury already, and it was a huge amount of resources for the Knights to give away. We saw Sage, he was super mobile in that position. He had plenty of rotates to make in, but hang on a minute. I9 has got Attic control while Josh is in the back of Attic.
Well, the thing is, Josh can't do much. He's completely separated from the rest of his team and cut off, but the rest of the Knights can. And they pounce on I9 while he is exposed, and Josh also manages to sneak up close. Speakeasy has been taken down and finished off by Lycolis. That's a big pick for Fury to get back into it.
Josh, though, he seems pretty elusive at the moment inside of Attic. Has just been droned out by BG, man, spotted out even by a yellow ping. And the rest of the Knights players will have to reconvene to try and support him as the push comes soon. That's exactly what they do. Sage able to double down, yet another pick onto BG, man. Dark looking for the refrag, but it doesn't work out. And Stiggs able to close out the round for the Knights. They are still in this match, Dev.
They certainly are, and they're starting to find their stride a little bit. getting that confidence back, not getting too anxious or skitty when things start to stray from the plan. And that's the thing that I was really worried about Knights earlier. Every time something seemed to go awry, they looked panicky. You think about that round where we first saw I9 pushing Trophy with the Monty. This time around, they kept their cool. They fell back. When the Monty overextended, they punished.
That's exactly what I want to see from the Knights. That's why I really rated that. As soon as they did that in the mid-round, I was like, hell yeah, let's go. These guys have figured it out this time against Fury. They're not letting them, I suppose, run all over them and disrespect them that way anymore. They're playing it cool, keeping calm and collected, and that's exactly what they need to get back into this series and what they're trying to achieve now. Fury, they've just taken their tactical timeout. They want to close it out now because really, if they want to close it out in regulation, they've only got 2 more chances to do so. And that's exactly what they want to do, especially because Knights are going to their tertiary sites. If there is any time for Fury to clean up an attack, it's now.
The best chance that they're going to get, for sure. We need to see some of that fire brought we saw at the start of this game, that we saw in the first 2 attack halves. Get the Amaru, get in the building real fast. Whatever it is, throw something at the Knights. See if they'll be ready for it, test them. Now, Fury have had their tactical timeout, and I do wonder what it was that was said in those moments. Is it changing the approach? Is it saying, look, guys, let's try and play slow and methodical? Because I actually feel like, even though Knights are starting to adapt better to this unpredictable playstyle, I feel like Fury have got to double down. That's what they're good at it. There's no point trying to play the game on Knights' terms.
10 seconds to go.
Look, if Fury win this here, we can ask them what they said in their tactical
go.
timeout. That could be exciting.
Robert Monday, write that down.
Knights, though, they're going to take us down to the meeting, I believe, is it? Or maybe I have this one written down. It is meeting, isn't it? Okay, fantastic. Meeting and kitchen as their final bomb site of choice. Now, the Knights, the way that they play this is, from memory, they like to open up the back stage wall. I believe it's half reinforced, and that's how they like to play it. I really like it because it means that they can make tower power position if they want to. Now, Dark finding the pick onto Sage is not a good start for the Knights if they still want to make this comeback through. And now they're down in the man count.
It's a bit of a roughie for Knights, losing a player early, especially because it's the most dangerous player in the server. Even with that death, Sage is at a 2.0 KD. Fury is starting to continue their approach onto this top floor. Drones go out, including a Twitch drone. Speakeasy and Juicy, the ones to receive this pressure.
They're still holding on to this crossfire on the top floor, though, not willing to give away any more free real estate to Fury off the back of that entry. Ooh. Oh, no! Not checking the position in pit, but he manages to get the flick onto him anyway. Now Speakeasy is able to double down with a refrag. No. 1-on-2 situation now for Josh, left in the back of meeting.
Oh, and it doesn't work out! No, not one bit. Fury out of absolutely nowhere, storm through the site, get their first win of Stage 3, and deliver a devastating L to the Knights. What a performance.
I just can't believe how abruptly that ended. That was insane on the side of Fury. From one moment, it was nothing. It was quiet. Dark got that first pick, and then they all flooded through that top floor, and it was all over after that. All of the Knights players were there, except for one on the site, and boom. It's a done deal. Fury take it out.
Huge repercussions from this match, which I'm sure they'll break down on the desk. But what you can say for sure, Fury end today with 4 points. That is a huge shot at making the major or having just a bloody good time here in Stage 3. For Knights, though, the story is very much the opposite. It is dark days for this team, the promised roster that looked to be potentially the chance for O's to make a major, but perhaps not so. We'll let the guys on the desk take it from here.